International News Review.
Oh. Hey, welcome back to Money FM 89.3. Glenn and Neil with you all the way up until the top of the 12 o'clock hour today. International News Review with Steve Okun. Welcome, Steve, Senior Advisor at McClarty Associates. Great to have you with us. All right, let's move on. LinkedIn is pulling out of China, saying that they are in a challenging operating environment. For years, LinkedIn was the only major American social networking platform not blocked in China, and now they're leaving. What do you make of that, Steve?
Well, look, I mean, LinkedIn made a choice, because when you operate in a country, you have to abide by those countries' laws. I mean, that you don't have a choice on that. And so LinkedIn made the decision that operating in China, as restricted as they were making themselves, was not worth the reputational risk in the United States or other markets, or the regulatory risks in Beijing and DC. And so they pulled out. And that's in part because they don't make a lot of money in China. And their owners, Microsoft, does not make a lot of money in China. So it was seemed to be a relatively easy decision for them when the pressure of trying to operate in China under President Xi and his regulatory regime just couldn't work anymore.
It seems a depressing story in a way, Steve, in the sense that reading the story and what Glenn has been saying, this was one of the few outlets available where people could chat, if you like, through the messaging system. This is another one of the few social media platforms that has gone.
Well, and what happened was, so, obviously we're all on LinkedIn, and we all have our profiles on LinkedIn, and we all put on LinkedIn what we do as business people. You book reviews or articles you write or shows you're doing. And so you had a lot of reporters in the United States. They would put on LinkedIn articles they had written, and it could have certainly been about Taiwan, or it could have been about, June 4th, or it could have been something about negative. The South China Sea. Yeah. Or you could use the word negative. They would say it was factual, right? About
perceived negative perceived.
Well, the Chinese said you have to take that. The Chinese went to LinkedIn and said you must remove these people from LinkedIn in China. And LinkedIn then did take down those profiles of I think it was a couple dozen of reporters. And then LinkedIn got tremendous blowback that they were censoring reporters and content at the direction of the Chinese government. And LinkedIn was between, the proverbial rock and a hard place. And they said, for us, we can't operate. It's more damage to us to abide by Chinese law than it is to just pull ourselves out of China because of the financial and revenue. A lot of U.S. companies, English companies can't do that. They have to figure out, how do you balance complying with Chinese law when that's going to give you blowback in the U.S., or complying with U.S. law when that's going to give you blowback in China. Very difficult for companies right now. And this illustrates that.
Yeah, I reached out to LinkedIn yesterday here in Singapore to ask them about this. I was hoping to get somebody on, but I said, well, at least give us a statement, which they did. And this is the statement from LinkedIn. Quote, while we are going to sunset, that's their word, the localized version of LinkedIn in China later this year, we will continue to have a strong presence in China to drive our new strategy, and are excited to launch the new so-called InJobs app later this year. So what that means is they are getting rid of the LinkedIn that we know, but they are going to start a new LinkedIn product that will be only a job connection portal. You won't be able to send comments as are currently possible now. So LinkedIn will reemerge, but with a new thing that is job connections only and no social comments.
Well done for getting that comment. I love the use of the word sunset.
Yeah,
we should.
I thought that was interesting.
We should sunset that segment and sunrise the next one.
Let's do it. Look, the next we've just finished this week has been National Mental Health Week. So many topics going on. I was involved in a panel last Sunday for an international conference on this, and new statistics have just come out. Suicides among Japanese school children hit a record high during the last year. 415 suicides among school kids 6 to 18 years old in 2020. Highest record, highest number since 1974. Steve, this is we might as well call this part of a pandemic as well.
I mean, that's exactly right, Glenn. I mean, I don't think there's any way you could say that these deaths were caused by COVID. And these deaths were caused by the government policies as related to COVID in Japan. And this is something that government officials, policymakers have to have a very tough time balancing, because for every person you might save from getting COVID, either you save their lives or save them from getting seriously ill. There's consequences, and it's causing harm on the other side. It's causing harm to school children if they can't go to school. It's causing harm to older people if they're locked in their homes and they can't see families. It's causing harm to businesses, and there has not been, I don't think, a real debate in a lot of countries about the costs of a COVID zero policy. That you have a COVID zero policy doesn't mean you're preventing deaths. You are still causing deaths, and you have to measure those out. And maybe we'll start to get these much tougher discussions in certain governments.
Also, Steve, looking at these extraordinary figures here, I mean, to tie in, a total of 452 suicides were reported in Singapore last year. That's across all age groups, I'm guessing. But just staying with the school children for a moment in Japan, where we know it applies in the Singapore too, sadly. Does COVID almost obscure slightly more underlying, and I hate to use this word, endemic issues when it comes to education, kiasuism in this part of the world?
Well, and in all parts of the world. I mean, I think that's the really tough decisions you have to make as a government official. I mean, when I was, at the Department of Transportation, you could, force airlines to have greater safety measures in their operations that might reduce the risk of a plane crash. But that's going to raise the price of an airline ticket. When you raise the price of an airline ticket, what happens is you divert people to driving. And driving is so much more dangerous than flying. So for every life you might theoretically save by making air travel safer, you're killing thousands and maybe tens of thousands of people because you're diverting them to the roads as opposed to the air. It's the same thing with COVID. When you do these lockdowns, you count how many lives you're going to save or how much health people are going to be better because of COVID. But that's your benefit, but you got to know what the cost is. And the cost is extreme, I think, Neil, as you mentioned, to school children. And I think, as you saw Singapore, where they even had those lockdowns, but they said, we got to get the kids in school. It's more important. We got to balance that. And so a lot of governments didn't do what Singapore did when it came to school children. And they're behind on education. That's a cost. They're going to be behind in their development. That's a cost. And they may even be paying the ultimate cost, which is you see these increased suicides in Japan.
Yeah, we, of course, want to encourage anyone, if you're listening to this today and you know somebody who is struggling with mental health issues, whether it's yourself or somebody else, just needs somebody to talk to. Samaritans of Singapore is an amazing organization. They are there to help. They have a toll-free number. I've just put that into their hotline number is so simple. It's 1-767, 1767, 24/7 hotline. If you need to talk to somebody or know somebody who does, or if you're concerned about a friend or a family member, you can call and find out what type of help you might be able to lend to them. So take it seriously. We've got, people taking their lives needlessly. Yes, Steve, go ahead. Last word.
And I was saying, and to Neil's point, and COVID's the policies to prevent COVID or reduce the harm of COVID are exacerbating a lot of these underlying issues. You may be fine, but all of a sudden your business, you've now lost your business that you've spent your life working on because the restaurant has closed down, your stall in the hawker center is closed down because of government policies. And while the government tries to help, it can only do so much in terms of subsidization. So it triggers this mental, problem that you might not have had otherwise. And so, yeah, you do have to help people, and you have to be much more cognizant. And I think it's a lot more recognition now. I mean, you even look in the sports world where, somebody like Naomi Osaka, the great tennis player, says, I can't, I have mental health issues. I can't play tennis right now. I'm going to withdraw from tournaments. So that recognition is going up. It's nothing to be, stigmatized about.
And Steve, finally, a note about my good friend, Prince William.
We're going to lighten the mood here a little bit.
Who I have a handwritten letter from Prince William. And that's actually true. Now, this week...
Do you actually call him Bill?
Well, he's Bill to me. He's built.
not Willie.
He's a big bill that my parents pay for in the
He
UK.
certainly does.
Wait, Neil, one correction. You have a handwritten letter allegedly from.
I don't think he even saw it. I don't think he even saw it, Steve. Now, this week, he has come out and criticized your good friends,
Well, you keep saying our good friends. Where does that even come from?
your fellow American billionaires, who
Because they're an American, they're all of a sudden our good friends. Yeah, I've never been on the yacht. Have you, Steve?
you skipped the fellow billionaire part.
Fellow. I'm not a billionaire.
Now,
Yeah.
they're focusing, as we know, on space tourism. Jeff Bezos set up William Shatner just this week. Now, Prince William has said, we need the greatest brains and minds fixing to repair the planet here, not sending them up in space to send them elsewhere. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know Glenn has very strong ones.
Well, William Shatner is, Captain Kirk, the first Captain Kirk, who's now 90 years old. So the headline, I think it was The Guardian, was "To oldly go where no man has gone."
That's a good one. Yeah,
That was
you'd expect that in the
What,
post.
Did you see it
in the post?
just
Maybe
briefly? Did you see in the ship there the coverage? They're all floating around, but William Shatner's still kind of holding on for dear life, isn't he? He's a little bit reluctant to let go. Sorry, Steve.
But no, I mean, I'm taking the other side. For first of all, if we can't get the planet's temperature under control, which does not seem to be happening, and we're running into all sorts of problems as we head into this, COP26 and this environmental conference coming up, we're going to be needing to get on those ships to get to Mars, right? Because this planet's going to be inhabitable in potentially our lifetimes and our kids' lifetimes. So one, I want to make sure I have that exit ramp if I need it. But two, look at all the good things that come out of innovation. Look at all the good things that come when people can say, I'm going to just push the limits and I want to see what can happen. So why do you not want people to spend their own money how they want to, so long as they're not harming anyone?
No, look, hey, I'm sure setting up 4 rich people for 10 minutes into space is going to completely improve the planet.
All right. So, first off, I don't care how Bezos or any of those guys
Your
spend
issue
their
is
money.
William.
It's their money. They can do whatever the heck they want with it. They already give away billions of dollars to charity and other causes. So I don't care how they spend their money. It's up to them. And if William Shatner wants to go to space, rock on. And he lived to talk about it. But I just think the hypocrisy of a royal coming out and saying we should focus on the planet when the royals cost the UK, $350 billion a year. That's the number I saw online.
$1 billion?
350.
No, that figure's wrong.
That can't be right.
The Campaign Against the Republic asserts that the final annual cost of the British monarchy to be at least 350 billion pounds a year, including lost revenue from the 2 duchies, security costs, costs met by local councils, police force, and lost tax revenue.
I mean, I say this as a proud Republican. That figure's way off. But,
okay. So even if it's 100 billion,
yeah.
Even if it's a third of that.
It's probably not even $1 billion. But yes, I've never had an issue with that. Look,
I'm just saying, where is his thing? Hey, we got to go. Steve, thanks. We got news we got to do.
Hey, live long and prosper, boys.
Hey,
Your
thanks.
blue chip station, Money FM 89.3.